welcome back to my channel. So I'm back with a quick video today, I hope quick, to show you guys my April wrap up and my May setup. Now this is not going to be a normal plan with me. This is going to be the same as what I did last month because honestly I just needed to get May set up. I've been working on my thesis and I just need a little break before I got started today, so I figured I would film a quick video and then whenever I have a free moment I'll try and edit and upload it for you guys. Just to keep you guys posted. Also, I am hoping to be back to normal by like mid-May or so, which hopefully means that I will have a normal June plan with me up for you guys before the end of the month. So hopefully that happens. I have been working really hard the last week and a half trying to get all of my exams done and everything, so we will see how it goes. But for now, let's get started. So first, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys in my index. Whoops, here we go, all my little sticky notes. Okay, so we have my April section down here and we have May. Now, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys so you can see how I've got my color coding all set up here. And I might get through like June or July in here. Like I don't know what, actually no, I do know what happened. You will notice that since like January, each month has gotten shorter and shorter up to the point where April was the shortest month I've ever had because I basically was just using it to organize my life and I didn't really have any other like projects or collections going on, which you guys will see. So let's go ahead and take a look at April. So we have a little intro page right here. So this yellow color definitely did make me happier throughout the month, which was good because I needed that. Otherwise, you'll see I have my monthly, my May upcoming, which everything is checked off because I have set up May already. I have my April goals, so I have kind of 3 different ways of dealing with it. So either I did it, or, which is like these checkmark things, so things I actually physically did. I have things that I've started on but haven't finished that I've migrated, and I have things that I didn't complete that, for example, this Talk to Me in Korean doing 5 lessons. I did 3 out of 5 lessons, so it's not complete, but I did some of it. Whereas like 20 pages of my memoir, I like started working on it, but not really. So it is migrated, but when I went through, for some reason, my brain was just like, cross that off. Like, I don't know. So anyway, so I have a couple of different ways of checking off goals that have either been completed, have been migrated, or haven't been completed for whatever reason. Then I have reading and tracking. So you'll notice that I only read 2 books, and according to GOODREADS, at the end of the month, I was 6 books behind schedule, which I'm not too concerned about because that's not very many. When I have a good month, like I could easily read 10 books, so not really concerned about that. But it is interesting. Yeah, I kind of felt bad giving this an entire page, but nearing the end of the month, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna run with it. Like I always have a full page tracker in here. There's not really a way for me to do it. Like I need to have that space for when I do read a lot. So since I didn't, I'm just gonna put a quote down. So I looked up and I found, I think I did a Google search on like reading quotes or no time to read quotes or something like that. And so as I pretty much always do, I found this one on the GOODREADS like quote section. So The Misery of Having No Time to Read, 1,000 Glorious Books by George Gissing. And you'll notice this lovely block of color. That is because I started writing 1,000 and I ran out of space. So I decided to just make a block of text and I went in with a copper gel pen. I think it was one of my Signo ones. So I went in with a copper gel pen and I just like fixed it like that. And you know what? I think it looks fine. Next up we have tracking. You'll see a lot of holes in there. That is standard when I get busy. Yeah. Then I've got my follow-up CALENDEX because if you guys will remember, I have, so my current CALENDEX somewhere up here, whoopsie daisy. So my current CALENDEX actually goes through this month, but I still have like 100 pages left in my notebook, so I've got a lot of space left. And I was running out of room in June and July because those are the things that are coming up soon, and normally I like to have those like this is usually when I'm ready to move into a new bullet journal and I have a new CALENDEX. That wasn't the case, so I decided to just go ahead and do a new CALENDEX. So what I did is I did the next 3 months because I figured there's probably no way that I'll get August in this bullet journal, but I think I'll get June and I might even get July, we'll see. And then that gave me some room to move over here. What I didn't do, however, is things that I had on June and July in my first CALENDEX that were actually tasks. I didn't migrate because there's no date attached to them. So they're actually still here. So I am still referring to this, and I will still refer to this even when I'm using my new CALENDEX. But I did go ahead, I did page threading here. So you'll see I have page 122 and then page 3 over here. So I can refer to both of them. And as always, I do have a CALENDEX carryover page for the first round of CALENDEX items that are going to go in here. Which also means that if anything came up in May that I didn't have another place for, I could just go ahead and stick on here. That hasn't actually happened yet, but that was kind of the reasoning behind the setup. So then we get into weeklies, and you will notice that I've been doing my ALISTAIR method weekly. I really, really like this. I find that I have a lot fewer things to migrate. I find that, I don't know, things just don't get quite so lost in the shuffle of having a full weekly spread. I've been really enjoying that. So basically on this side, I'm trying to keep it to anything that's like more event style, or if I have a task that I need to do on a specific day. Otherwise, it goes into one of my 3 categories here. So either general tasks, work, or university. And then I have stuff for the upcoming week. And I've just been keeping this, and it's been really nice. You'll notice that I am still doing everything in Korean. That will not change, you will notice. I have a spread here for the final push, so all of my stuff for university. And I've actually gotten a lot of things checked off. I have a couple that are checked off that like the work of them is pretty much done, but the presentation isn't done. So I actually have a different, it's a very complicated process, but basically I've been working on stuff. Another weekly, this was when I switched over to doing my headers in my fountain pen because I really, really liked this Apache Sunset ink. I just thought it was so pretty. I had an extra page over here, so you'll notice that I tend to take a page for my weekly and about 2 pages for dailies, which means that I have 1 page left over. And so that becomes some kind of a collection or lettering or what have you. So this one was a More Great K-Drama Lines tracker because I had finished my other one. So I did do page threading down here so that I can go back and refer to the first page, but it's not what I would consider an open collection in that it's just for fun. It's not something that I'm necessarily going to refer back to, but it's just a fun thing to have in here to look back on. Then playing around more with fountain pen headers. I actually went on holidays that Friday evening. And so, because I was on holidays, I have my holiday task list. So what I ended up doing is I took a piece of scratch paper at first and I just wrote down all of the things that had been accumulating that I knew I wanted to get through. And I made a couple of big categories. So for example, I had stuff that was related to next year. I have to file my taxes, still not done with that. This is all stuff for work, and then this is all stuff for university. So you'll notice that I have a lot of stuff checked off. I still have a couple of big things left, but I have been making good progress, and it's been really nice seeing that progress on here, even though like on a day-to-day level, these individual tasks will make it onto my daily. But it's nice that when I finish them, I can go back here and I can see my master list and make sure that I'm not overlooking something or that I didn't forget to do something. So this has been really helpful. Then we have more weeklies and dailies. And this was the end of the month. I didn't have a collection that I needed because I have been just working on doing university homework, so I didn't have anything that needed to go in here, so I decided to just do a little quote. So I have my just keep swimming because gotta make it through to the end. And then we are up to May. So I decided to go big for May in the sense that I've been doing my headers for like my days of the week in Korean, but in May I decided that I wanted to try and do my month level stuff in Korean as well. So I found a quote. I think I looked up like proverbs in Korean or something along those lines. It was some kind of a search that I was able to come up with a bunch of different proverbs that had the Korean version and then like the literal translation and what it like an equivalent proverb in English would be. So you'll see here that I chose Rome wasn't built in a day. So I just did a really simple header. I wasn't screwing around with like calligraphy in in Hangul. Like, I'm not quite at that point yet, but I thought that this was a really good quote for like the progress that I'm trying to make learning Korean. And then I have my header. Now, if you saw the picture on my Instagram, you'll know that this is not what it originally looked like. I actually had them flipped, and I didn't have this bit of Hangul after the year. And one of the lovely people on Instagram who helps me and corrects my Korean was like, oh, actually, you should do it the other way, and like you need this at the end to indicate that it's the year. And so I was looking at my header and I was like, oh, it's gonna drive me crazy that I have this wrong, like how am I gonna fix it? So once again, same as what I did with my reading tracker, I just did a block of color over it, and then I did a shadow in the same color, like these are my 2 colors for the month, and just went over in white gel pen, and I think it looks fine. Speaking of which, let me grab my 2 colors. So my 2 colors for the month are 296, this like teal green, and 243, the mint green. So because I wanted to have something that was kind of springy, but I also needed something that was going to go with my like color coding thing here. So you'll notice that most of my stuff is in 296 because it's brighter, but my month level like color coding is actually in 243 because it was a little bit more subtle. Whatever. It is what it is. So this is my intro page. Then I have my monthly, and I actually did, it's going to be really hard to see, but hopefully you can. I actually did do the days of the week in like the shorthand. So there's the full day of the week in Korean, there's the 1-syllable block, and then there's the first letter. So I just did the first letter. So this is the equivalent of writing like MTWTFSS on the top of my page. But just so that I kind of had it in there to remind myself, even though obviously I know that it's Monday through Sunday, I just wanted to have that reminder for the Korean. So I have my May calendar, I have June, so upcoming, and then I have my May goals. Now, you'll notice that everything that's in the tasks is still in English because I am nowhere near the level where I can write everything in Korean, but I at least wanted to do all of my headers and stuff in Korean for my month level pages. Then I've got reading. Anybody who's watching this who actually reads Korean, feel free to correct me on stuff. I tried to look up as much as I could on like NAVER to try and figure out how to actually write it. And if I wasn't sure, I just picked a word that I knew. Now, I know that normally I say reading goals, and I know that this just says book. That was intentional. I didn't know a better way to do it, and I knew this word, and I was really proud of myself for knowing this word, and so I used that word. Yeah. Because after a while, like obviously I looked up certain things because I didn't already know how to say goals, for example, so I had to look that up. But for certain things, if I like could use a word that I already knew instead of having to look up something that was going to be way more complicated and like outside of my frame of reference, then I would try and use that. Obviously that didn't always work. The good thing is that once I looked up the word for goals, I was able to use it for a lot of different things. I could have also written it up here and done like book goals, but I decided not to. But I do have it here because I have my goals for the month. I have whether my goals were met. Now this one I 100% had to look up. I had no idea how to say that. And then this was actually one that I had learned in Talk to Me in Korean, so I was able to put that into practice. So I have my start date and my end date. So I actually just wrote like from and to, because that was what I kind of knew how to say. Even if that's not the like 100% correct way, like I know what I meant when I wrote that down. Hopefully that makes sense. So I've got some reading goals, and you'll notice that even though I've been doing a lot of work, I actually have been able to read some. This book I've honestly been reading, I was reading Hidden Figures, I think it took me honestly 3 months because I kept I'd read some, and it was very interesting, so I kept wanting to finish it, but I would read a little bit, I would run out of time, I would have to return the book to the library, get it back out on hold, read a little bit more, and I think I did this like 3 or 4 times. So I finally was like, you know what, I'm just gonna like finish this. So in some of my downtimes when I was taking a break, instead of doing something else, I was trying to finish this book. And then I started a Harry Potter reread, but I decided to do the audiobooks because I've never actually listened to them, and that I can do like while I'm doing other things. So for example, I was setting up stuff for work. For example, I was setting up new weeklies in my teacher bullet journal, and so I just had an audiobook going rather than listening to music. So yeah, don't think I have a lot of extra time. I just was managing to squeeze in little bits of reading when I could because I was really missing reading given that I did not read very much in April. Moving on, I have my tracker. So I've got a couple of things on here, and this is mostly in preparation for essentially after like the second half of the month. What I have done, so most everything is the same. My first four here is stuff that I always have on here, but one thing that I want to try and do, and I will be showing you guys in my language journal in a second, is I want to try and do a little bit of journaling in Korean every day. So I actually added it to my tracker so that it would hold me accountable. And one of my other goals is to work on getting to the point where I can maybe do the splits. So that means I need to stretch a little bit every day. So that's why I added those two on at the end. Then I've got my money goals and my like amount saved. And that's my like month level setup. I will go ahead and show you my first week just so you can kind of see. So basically same as normal. It is currently Thursday, May 3rd. So you'll notice that once again, I'm gonna be pretty close to having the full week worth of dailies on 2 pages. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, that is the end of it. So I'm gonna show you my language journal setup really quick and then I will let you go. So here we have handy dandy language journal. All right, so let me find April somewhere in here. Oops. So I have my review trackers that I do refer back to, and then we have April. So April, I was actually, by taking like 5 or 10 minutes every single morning and doing some memorize and a couple of Talk to Me in Korean lessons, but mostly memorize, I was able to do a little bit of Korean saying every day. I listened to music in Korean pretty much every day, and you can see around midway through the month I started doing my journaling. And then I have my watching K-dramas. So this is pretty much my, like, what I did for Korean in April, essentially, because I didn't do that much else. So I started doing journaling in here, and this was actually based on a video that I saw on the Talk to Me in Korean YouTube channel about like ways to practice Korean when you don't actually live in a Korean speaking country, or i.e. in Korea. And one of the things that was recommended was that you do a journal. So for example, when you're a beginner, if you don't know how to do any sentences, you can just start by like writing down words. And then as you get better, you can try and make sentences and like check them and see like if you're doing okay and like that kind of stuff. So I've been doing the Talk to Me in Korean lessons for a while, and I recently started last month doing the memorize lessons to get more vocabulary. So I was at a point that I could actually make sentences. I'm sure I've made like mistakes on here, but I actually could make sentences, and so I've been trying to do that. Now, one of the things is I tried to not look up words unless it was something that like I knew I had in my notes. So for example, something that I knew I had learned but that I had forgotten, or a verb that I knew but I like wasn't really sure how to conjugate it in past tense, for example. So that kind of stuff. But I tried not to look up words that I really did, like just didn't know at all, at least at the beginning. And I did repeat a lot because a lot of times I do this in the morning, and so I would write things like, I'm drinking coffee, or I saw a friend yesterday. Like, you know, things that were kind of repetitive, but it was, one, it was good practice for handwriting, and two, it helped get some of those verbs that I wasn't quite as sure on, like get those conjugations kind of more in my head. So you'll notice that some days I wrote like 2 or 3 lines, some days I wrote like 5, but I just kind of tried to do almost every day. I had a couple days that I skipped, I think. Yeah, so like here I skipped the 24th, for example. And then I set up for May, and I just flipped to the next page, and I kept on going with my journaling. So my goal for May is to do a little bit every single day. Now you'll notice that I had some days where, again, I did 5, and one day where I did 2 because I didn't really have much to say, but I wanted to do something. So I went ahead and I just did 1 sentence for that day, but it's still some kind of practice. So at some point I'd like to find some way to get a Korean speaker to actually correct these for me and just see like how close I am, because obviously journaling is great and all, but it's not that great if I keep doing things that are incorrect. So at some point I need to do that. But for now, that's what I've been doing. And otherwise, my May setup is exactly the same. And you'll notice that I do track when I write in here, but I'm also tracking it on my May tracker in my bullet journal, like I said, so that if for some reason I haven't looked at my language journal during like that day yet, I can look at my regular track and say, oh yeah, I haven't done my writing, and come in here and do it. And then I also have a record on here. But it's really just to kind of make sure that I don't forget that this is a goal that I want to do for the month, even though that does mean it's going to get tracked in 2 different places. So I hope you guys enjoyed this like modified plan with me to at least see what I did in April and see what I'm doing in May. Honestly, I'm really excited about May. I'm excited to try incorporating more and more Korean as I improve and as I get a little bit more, as I get more vocabulary, honestly. That's what's really been holding me back. But yeah, if you guys have any comments or questions, if you speak Korean and you have corrections for me, please let me know, because I tried to look up as much as I could, but sometimes I just wasn't aware of like different contexts or connotations, so there's a very good chance that I've gotten some things wrong. But otherwise, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!